So ladies and gentlemen, today we are back with another lore explained video, and today we're taking a look at one of the oldest and the first gym leader of all Pokemon, that being Brock himself. So let's get started. So we are going to start off with some of the general information on Brock, so those of you who have forgotten about him may get a bit of a refresh. See, Brock hails from the Kanto region and his home is Pewter City. He specializes in rock-type Pokemon, being that he is the rock-solid Pokemon trainer. We don't really know Brock's last name, but we do know that his first name is Brock in English, and in Japanese it's Takeshi, and in French his name is Pierre, which is the name in French that he shares with Steven actually, the champion of the Hoenn region, and someone who also has a massive love for rocks and stones. But yeah, also Brock is one of the few characters that we know has a very large family, with both his parents being at one point or another shown off in the main anime. His father is called Flint and is basically the former Pewter City gym leader before Brock took over, and is a strange man that sort of ditched his family and left for quite some time. And Lola is the name of Brock's mother. She shows up in the episode A Family That Battles Together, Stays Together, where we get to know that she is a water type user, which is kind of interesting because the love of her life, which was Brock's father, Flint, is a rock type fanatic, which is kind of fun because rock types are weak to water. So he was weak to her, like, I guess, looks, and he was weak to her, so he fell in love with her. Basically, it's just kind of what I'm trying to say. But there is some other stuff here to mention as well, which is that Brock has loads of siblings, which I really mean a lot. There is Forrest, which is one of his brothers, that is somewhat more like present, but we can't also forget the other 8 siblings that Brock has to take care of, because, well, he's got a massive family for sure. As for the physique of Brock, well, he has a few different versions of him, but he's mostly portrayed to have like brown hair and kind of a tall kind of nature. Well, his eyes are also seemingly always looking like they're closed, but we have also been confirmed that he does have black colored eyes. So there's some of the general information about him, but what about the video game story and presence of Brock? Well, let's get into that right now. Okay, so next is the deep dive into the video game presence of Brock. So first of all, we need to sort of know what games Brock shows up in. Well, let's start with that. Brock appears in Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow, Fire Red, and Leaf Green, where he serves as the gym leader of the Pewter City Gym, and is the first gym leader you face off when your journey through Kanto starts. He's said to be a very respected and admired person by the people that know him, as well as a very serious and professional Pokemon trainer. He's very proud of his rock-hard willpower and uses rock-type Pokemon to complement this. He isn't the sort of person to laugh or drop his very serious demeanor very easily, but if he does, it might be quite difficult to stop him from laughing. He enjoys to go digging for fossils in Mount Moon on his free time. What is kind of cool as well is that in Pokemon Yellow version, which he also shows up in, Brock points out that he is training to become a Pokemon breather, which is sort of cool since that is basically a direct reference to his anime counterpart's goal of becoming a Pokemon breather, right? And what is even stranger is that breeding isn't even present in Pokemon Yellow, so yeah, it's kind of strange. The next games you see Brock in is in 3 years later during Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal, as well as their remakes Heart Gold and Soul Silver, where Brock has still remained as the gym leader of Pewter City Gym, which you can challenge at any point of your journey through Kanto. When you battle him, he points out that he is surprised to hear you are from the Johto region, but he's glad to take on your challenge, as he doesn't see too many Johto, trainers often. And in Heart Gold Soul Silver in particular, you can actually find Brock outside the Diglett Cave after you obtain all the 16 badges in the game. He will be in the Diglett Cave near Pewter City on any day between noon and 3 p.m. And if you actually interact and speak with him, he will offer you his Pokegear number. And if you get it, you can call him on Saturday nights and he will be up for a rematch at the Fighting Dojo in Saffron City. And also, once you have his number for the Pokegear, he'll also start to reappear in the Diglett Cave every day between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. But that's not all. You can also have a photograph taken with him there, and if you talk to him on Saturday, he will offer to trade you a Rhyhorn that knows Thunderfang for a Bonsly, which is a pretty solid offer if I may say so myself. The next mainline games where Brock appears is in Black and White 2, where he's part of the Kanto Leaders Tournament alongside the other Kanto gym leaders. He also takes part in the World Leaders Tournament and the Rock-type Expert Tournament as well. But beyond this, you can pretty much just find him only in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee next. And here we get to know that one of the things about Brock that is present very much in the Pokemon anime, which is his love for girls and females, is something that is present once more in this game, because he points out that he's obsessed with females, which is always a really weird thing within the anime, but it's also mentioned in the Let's Go games, so that's something. Next are of course the spin-off games, and first up is Pokemon Stadium, where Brock shows up up in the Gym Leader Castle and takes you on with a pretty strange little team. And of course, you also have him showing up in the second game, Pokemon Stadium, with somewhat of a different team, but overall serving the same purpose. The next spin-off game he shows up in is Pokemon Masters, where he has a Onix and a Tyranitar as his possible sync pairs, which makes sense since both are, rock types. And Pokemon Puzzle League is the last one where you get to see him, and here we have the anime version of Brock that shows up but doesn't really offer anything, brand new when it comes to the video game presence. Now you might wonder, well, where is Brock now within the video games? Well, he's probably just back in Pewter City taking care of his siblings and running the Pewter City gym, and that's what would make the most sense in the video games, right? Even though his siblings aren't really present in the video games, we haven't really seen that, we do know that for the most part, he's preoccupied just taking care of the gym and being the gym leader. And we'll talk a little bit more about his actual Pokemon that he used in the gym and all that sort of stuff and in the video games towards the end of the video. So if you want to see the teams, well, we're going to talk about those at the end. But before that, well, let's talk about the manga version of Brock first. And oh boy, Brock is present in quite a lot of parts of the Pokemon manga, but the biggest has to be the Pokemon Adventures manga, where Brock of course serves as the gym leader of Pewter City once again, but he also works as a security guard at the Pewter Museum of Science, which is sort of random, but it makes sense considering he does have a love for fossils and, rock-type Pokemon and such things as that. Now, he first shows up during the chapter Onix is On, which is part of the red, green, and blue chapters of the manga. Here we have the first mention of him, of Brock specifically, by the trainer Blue in the chapter Wanted Pikachu, where he describes Brock as a person that is bored by no one that is able to defeat him or even get past Brock's preliminaries, which are basically battles against trainers that are part of the gym that Brock takes care of, which is the Pewter Gym, that you need to take on first and take down first before you take on Brock. And he's actually always observing these battles when they're happening. Brock is also shown to be quite a helpful and brave Pokemon trainer that helps out Erica and Misty in their battles against Team Rocket throughout those parts of the manga. And also he hands Pokemon trainer Yellow a Graveler after an incident with Agatha's mind-controlling Ghastly, so that's a bit of a side thing. But that is not all though. As you might not know, he's also a man with a temper, so he can very quickly get angry and frustrated while on his search for a great Pokemon battle. But after being defeated by Trainer Red, we don't see Brock until the yellow chapters again, right? Where he volunteers to help Blaine search for Trainer Red in Mount Moon, since it's close to his home of Pewter City. But when he gets there, he finds a cast of Red frozen in ice, and, basically he's about to ask Blaine to take care of it, but before he's able to, translate that information over to Blaine and handle that, something at his home of Pewter City is happening. Basically, it gets attacked by a bunch of Machop that belong to the fighting type Elite Four member, Bruno, that were there to get their hands on the Boulder Badge, so Brock has to hurry back to defend his home, basically. And the final chapter where Brock appears are the Gold, Silver, and Crystal chapters, which are set a few years into the future, where we have him, as well as Erica and Misty, traveling to the Johto region for a gym leader tournament at the Indigo Plateau, where Brock is faced off against the expert of the, at the time, recently discovered Steel types, who are basically like a brand new typing with the Pokemon world, and this trainer is Jasmine, and unfortunately he loses his match against her, but is later in a battle against Team Rocket on the Magnet Train in this, part of the manga. And for the most part, that is the last chapter in the adventure manga where he is present. But as for where he is right now, well, he's mostly back in Pewter City just tending to his gym and taking care, of just taking on very strong trainers and trying to battle them, right? And trying to take them down and stop them on their journeys. But Adventures isn't the only manga where he is seen. We see Brock actually in a few other places. See, the actual problem here is that Brock is present in almost too many manga at this point, but I'll give you a general idea of his appearances. So let's start with the first one. First up is the Pokemon Ash and Pikachu manga, which is based on the Pokemon anime, so he mostly just does the same thing where he travels with Ash and Misty on their journey together. Next is the Electric Tale of Pikachu manga, which is somewhat based on the main Pokemon anime as well, but it actually kind of spins off into a different thing. And in this manga, Brock is often a reoccurring character, but doesn't actually travel with Ash and Misty all the time. He kind of just pops in and out, all the time, basically. That's the type of deal with him in this manga. Next is the Magical Pokemon Journey manga, where he, as well as Ash and Misty, make a cameo appearance in some of the bonus chapters where they are by accident wandering into the quote-unquote world of the Magical Pokemon Journeys manga and its setting. And during the whole manga, their whole goal is basically to try to get back to their own world, so it's kind of like a dimension traveling type of deal. It's kind of strange. Next, though, he makes a small appearance with his Onix alongside him, and as well as like him, alongside a bunch of other gym leaders in the Pocket Monsters Heart Gold Soul Silver Joe's Big Adventure manga, where he is part of like a silhouette of him and a bunch of other, gym leaders from Kanto. And finally, he shows up in the Pocket Monsters manga, where he shows up in the chapter Take Out Rival Onyx, right before Red shows up in the Pewter City, Pewter City. So Green gets there first and takes on Brock, but Brock basically has so much power that's so immense that Green's Charmander gets totally destroyed in this battle, which warrants Green to tell Red about the insane power of Brock. But despite that, Red takes him on anyways and battles him with his Clefairy against Brock's Onyx, and Red defeats him, earning himself a Boulder Badge. He also makes some minor appearances and cameos in some other chapters of this manga, where he's wearing a different uniform, that being his uniform from Pokemon Fire Red Leaf Green, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, that is his overall presence in the manga. He's mostly just doing the same thing, which is, to serve as the gym leader of Pewter, for kind of an indefinite amount of time, or to go with Ash on his journey in some of the manga, but for the most part, serves kind of the same purpose. So, we just talked about the video games and the manga, but finally we have Brock in the anime, and wow, where do we start? Well, Brock's first appearance is in his battle against Ash Ketchum in his debut episode, where he battles Ash and, well, ends up losing. After this, he requests to join Ash on his journey, but before he does this though, he serves as the sort of like parent of his younger siblings until his father finally returns and takes over the care of them, so Brock can go on his journey and become a Pokemon breather alongside, Ash on his journey. He also leaves them the Pewter City gym, and he gives his father the control of it to serve as the gym leader, which, is not really that strange, as he was the man who served as the, gym leader there before, and is a person with a rock hard will as well. So, for the most part, if you have watched the first season of the Pokemon anime, you might remember that for the most part, Brock serves as a sort of guide to Ash during their journey in the Kanto region. But once they finish their time in Kanto, and Ash is headed to the Orange Islands, Brock has to leave for some time to join Professor Ivy to help and assist her in some of her research, because, well, Professor Ivy. But he returns back to Ash as well, Ash and alongside with Misty on their journey through Johto, and stayed with Ash on his journey through Hoenn and Sinnoh as well. But he would always at the end of each journey return back to his home in Pewter City before he continued his journey with Ash to the next region. But after Sinnoh, however, he left Ash to go and become a Pokemon doctor, and he loves to of course take care of Pokemon, so it makes a lot of sense. And yeah, that is mostly what his presence in the anime is like. Of course, you might remember, his massive infatuation with women and females, and he would constantly try to throw himself on them, but would also always be stopped by Misty for being too creepy with it. But for the most part, he was like a mentor and guide to Ash during his journey with him, as well as he was kind of like a much older and far more knowledgeable and experienced trainer that Ash could like look to and, kind of get information from when it came to stuff during battles. And he also would be the sort of person to explain things during a battle for us, the viewers. But after leaving Ash on his journey, he did make a reappearance for an episode during the Pokemon Sun and Moon series, where he appeared for the first time again after not being seen since the end of Diamond and Pearl's anime. But after his appearance here, he disappears once again, and we've not seen him since. He's probably just back in Pewter City as either a gym leader or pursuing his passion of being a Pokemon doctor, which would make a lot of sense. But that is just the main Pokemon anime. What about the other ones he shows up in? Well, first is Pokemon Origins, where Brock serves as the first gym leader once again against Red as well as Blue, who have to face off against him. He's basically designed in this anime to look like his Heart Gold Soul Silver counterpart, whereas most of the other characters in this anime are based on their Fire Red and Leaf Green outfits. But the first time Brock shows up in the episode is File 1 Red, where Brock is observing a battle between Red and Blue, where Red is being destroyed by Blue's Squirtle due to type advantage. Brock sees this and decides to teach Red some basics about Pokemon battling, so he actually has a chance of winning battles in the future. Sometime later, Red figures out that Brock is the Pewter City gym leader, and then challenges him. He somehow manages to defeat Brock and earns himself a first gym badge, being the Boulder Badge. During this battle, we get to see that Brock has quite a lot of different Pokemon that are all in kind of varying levels, such to keep like the battles against, his opponents somewhat fair, as new trainers would have a really hard time going up against like a straight up level 100 Pokemon otherwise. But that's really all you see of him in the Oranges anime. Once Red defeats him, that's it. He moves on with his journey. He next makes an appearance, however, in the Pokemon Masters animated trailer, where he's joined by Scotty and Rosa on a journey through the Paseo region. While in the forest though, they come across a group, with Erica and as well as a a beauty trainer and a last trainer, and they take them on in a battle where Brock is basically using his Onyx, and they end up coming out as the victors. So that's basically what we see there. We of course see the small appearance of, like, you know, Brock's Onyx here, but for the most part, that's all of his stuff right there. So that was the anime, but before we jump into, you know, talking about Brock's teams and whatnot, we have to take a look at the final things here, which is the TFG and the TCG where Brock is present. So first up is the TFG, and if you do not know what the TFG is, it's basically the Pokemon trading figure game, which aren't as popular or sold as much anymore, but back in the day, during one of the launch sets, he appeared as a rare trainer figure that you can get in the set called Next Quest. He was one of the very few trainers actually included in this set though. Next is the Pokemon TCG, or the trading card game, where Brock has made quite a lot of appearances. He has a whole eponymous theme deck in the Gym Heroes expansion, with the Japanese counterpart to that being based on the Pewter Gym, and featuring like a lot of Pokemon, by the way. But he also has loads of other cards like trainer cards in Gym Heroes, or his other trainer cards beyond that, like Brock's Training Method, as well as Pewter City Gym trainer card, as well as Brock's Protection from the Gym Challenge expansion, and the last one from the older sets is Blaine's Quiz, which is a trainer card featuring Brock in it. Next is Brock's Grit, that is a supporter card released in the Evolutions expansion set. And then there is also Brock's Pewter City Gym card from Hidden Fates, and finally there is Brock's Training from Hidden Fates, and that's sort of a recreation of the old Brock Training Method card from Gym Heroes expansion, so it's pretty crazy. But the last one we will mention here is the X and Y promo gym badge cards that feature all the Hoenn gym leaders with their gym badges, and also all the Kanto gym leaders with their gym badges, you know, Brock being one of those. So yeah, that's sort of all the appearances of him in the TCG and the TFG. So I just thought it'd be cool to mention because it's part of his general, you know, mythos. So there's that. So finally, before we get to the conclusion at the end of this video, we haven't spoken much about Brock's teams and the Pokemon that he uses. So I thought we would finish the video off with that. So first up would be the video game teams and Pokemon that Brock uses. So starting out with Pokemon Red and Blue, as well as Pokemon Green, we have him using a Geodude level 12 and an Onix level 14. Next up though, in Pokemon Yellow, he pretty much uses the same sort of team, which is a Geodude but at level 10 this time, and an Onix at level 12, so somewhat weaker. Then you have Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal, where he looks somewhat different in terms of his sprite and design, but here he, you know, specifically actually has a somewhat larger, you know, Pokemon team, as he is, you know, taken on in the post-game, so to say. So he has a Graveler level 41, a Rhyhorn level 41, an Omastar level 42, a Kabutops level 42, and an Onix level 44, which makes sense as he does have a massive love for fossils, so he probably got himself that, you know, Omastar and that Kabutops, you know, as fossils primarily, probably within Mount Moon. Then we have his appearance in Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, where he shows up with pretty much the same team as, you know, Red and Blue, with a Geodude level 12 and an Onix level 14. Then we have his Heart Gold Soul Silver gym battle, where he uses again a Graveler, which is level 51, a Rhyhorn level 51, an Omastar level 53, Kabutops level 52, and an Onix level 54. So pretty much the same team as in Gold and Silver and Crystal where you battle him. And then finally, we also have his rematch in Pokemon Heart Gold Soul Silver, which has him using a Golem level 55, which is probably his Graveler now evolved. He has a Relicanth level 54, which is pretty cool, an Omastar level 56, which is the same one as before, Kabutops level 55, same as before, Onix level 61, and a brand new Rampardos, which again is also a fossil Pokemon, so just more fossils he's gotten his hands on. Then we have his team during the Pokemon World Tournament, during the Kanto Leaders Tournament, where he uses again a Onix as usual, because it's one of his, you know, main Pokemon, his signature Pokemon, so to say. He's got a Golem level 50, which is probably his Graveler and Geodude that evolved from the past, Kabutops, which he's kept with him, you know, because he loves fossils, Omastar, same reason there, and a brand new Aerodactyl, again, a Pokemon that is present very much within that area where he's from, and of course the Relicanth that we saw in Heart Gold Soul Silver. Then we also have Brock showing up in the Type Expert World Tournament, where he uses a Onix, which same Onix as before pretty much, about level 50, a Golem level 50, Kabutops level 50, as well as a brand new Tyranitar, which is really interesting because we don't get to see that too often. And then of course we have an Aerodactyl level 50 as well from before, and a Rhyperior, which makes sense because he has had his hands on like a Rhyhorn, for example the one that he trades to you in Pokemon Heart Gold Soul Silver, so it proves that he's probably had a Pokemon like that in the past. But then we finish it all off with his team from Pokemon Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. See, in the first gym battle that you take him on, he has a level 11 Geodude and a level 12 Onix, so somewhat weaker than what he had in, the original games. Then we have a rematch with him in the Pewter Gym, where he uses himself a Onix, once again, level 56, Kabutops, level 56, Omastar, level 56, Aerodactyl, level 56, and Golem, level 57. So staying consistent with the same Pokemon here, not adding in too many changes. So that is his teams from the video games, or at least the mainline video games. See, we still have the side games and the spin-offs. So first up is Pokemon Stadium, where in round 1, he uses an Onix, which is between level 50 and 100, a Graveler between level 50 and 100, Cubone 50 to 100, Vulpix level 50 to 100, Omanite 50 to 100, and Kabuto level 50 to 100. So the reason he has a Vulpix here clearly is because of a reference to that Vulpix during one of the episodes in the Pokemon anime. If you guys remember that one, you are a legend, because I remember it. I used to watch it as a kid. So yeah, it's probably one of those being referenced there. As for Cubone though, it's a bit of a different one, a bit of a curveball. Next, however, is round 2, where he uses an Onix, a Golbat, which makes a reference to the Zubat that he takes care of within, the sort of anime, right? The main anime. Golem, which of course is his, Geodude being fully evolved. Ninetales, which is the Vulpix now fully evolved. Dugtrio, which might be a somewhat reference to maybe something, I'm not really sure, could be a reference to like Diglett Cave from Kanto, something like that. And then Omastar, which of course is a reference to his love for fossils. Then in Pokemon Stadium 2, he uses an Onix, which is, pretty neat because it's his main Pokemon. Golem, once again, Omastar, Pinsir, which is a bit of a strange one, and Fortress, which is one that he gets in the anime, and then finally Kabutops. And that is that one. Then the final match, the final one you have, round 2, where Brock shows up. He has a Steelix, which makes sense because this was, Stadium 2, so Steel types had just been introduced, and of course he would evolve his Onix, his main Pokemon, into a bloody Steelix. It just makes sense. Then he's got a Heracross, which is a bit of a curveball. He's got a Rhydon, which makes sense because it's one of those Pokemon that he definitely would have in his team. Slowbro is added in here, which is really odd and a curveball to me. Then he has an Ursaring, and finishing it off with Shuckle. So probably the strangest and most unorthodox version of his team is gotta be the second, like the round 2 one that he uses during Stadium 2. And honestly, what we learn from looking at his mainline teams is that he's very much consistent with the rock types, except in like Stadium. Here it's a little bit weird and strange and some weird additions, but for the most part, within the Stadium games, he stays consistent rather, often, but towards the end, it gets a little bit weird. And then of course we have the other spin-off game where he shows up, which is Pokemon Masters, and here he uses 2 Pokemon specifically, which you can sync pair with, which is Onix and Tyranitar. And we already know that Onix is his main Pokemon, his, number 1 Pokemon, but if you want to have the Signa suit, then you gotta go with Tyranitar as the sync pair Pokemon, which makes sense. It's a cool Pokemon, it's a rock type, so it fits well with him, and it's a Pokemon that he has had in his teams at some points. So those were the teams in the video games, but what about the manga? Well, this is where it gets a little bit crazy, so let's start with the Adventures manga first. So first up, he's got Geodude, or he's got about 6 of these Geodude that protect him. These are like Geodudes that just kind of like, stick around him, and they do have actually nicknames, which is Geo 1, Geo 2, Geo 3, and so on, all the way until Geo 6, right? Which is pretty weird, but these appear in one of the first, chapters where Brock also appears, and they're pretty weird. Then you, of course, also have an Onix, which is his main Pokemon, his big old Onix, just makes sense, as well as a Kabuto and Kabutops. As again mentioned, he's a big fan of specifically fossils, and he is also, the guy taking care of the Pewter Museum of Science, so it would make sense that he would, get one of the Pokemon there, and get literally a Kabutops out of it, so it makes sense. Then of course has a Graveler, which he actually gives away in the manga, but that's about it though. And to be honest, in most of the other manga, he mostly just has an Onix and a Geodude, which are kind of his most iconic Pokemon, which are the ones that show up the most. Like for example, in the Pocket Monsters manga, in that one we know that he has an Onix, but also that he has a giant room within the Pewter City Gym with loads of Pokemon, like loads of them. So he's definitely got his hands on quite a few different Pokemon, but for the most part, Onix and Geodude within the manga are some of the most present ones. So let's take a look finally at his team within the Pokemon anime, the mainline anime to begin with, right? So first up, he of course has an Onix, which he then evolved into a Steelix, which also has the ability to Mega Steelix, right? So that's that. You've also got Geodude, one of the most iconic Pokemon, of course, when it comes to Brock. Then you've got the Zubat that evolved into Golbat and eventually Crobat, so you've got that Pokemon on his team, which is on hand for him, by the way. Then you've got Bonsley as well as Sudowoodo. that he's got on his team. And remember, this is one of those Pokemon that in Heart Gold Soul Silver, he wanted you to basically give him a Bonsly, and he would give you in return a Rhyhorn, so it makes sense. And he of course also has a Comfey within his team. Then we have some Pokemon that he's left at the Pewter Gym / at his home, which is a Pineco that evolved into Fortress. He's got a Ludicolo, he's got a Marshtomp, a Krogunk, and a Chansey. And a Pokemon that he eventually ended up returning is of course Vulpix, but it was a Pokemon that was on his team. So yeah, that's for most part what you see there. Now, there are some temporary Pokemon that he's used, but I don't think it's worthwhile to go through temporary Pokemon as they're, well, temporary and not really Pokemon that he full-on owned. So that's what I'm just gonna say about those. And yeah, those are the teams for the anime, but ladies and gentlemen, that's basically it for the teams. I mean, if you want me to go through the TCG teams he also had, or the Pokemon in the TCG, well, it's quite a lot of them, so I'm just gonna instead leave like a screenshot here on the screen of all the ones that are kind of put together here, of all the TCG cards which feature Pokemon that belong to specifically Brock. So if you want to take a look at that, there you go, pause the video, look at that. But for the most part, we've just gone through all the Pokemon he owns and all the teams he's basically had throughout the video games, the manga, the anime, and also now the TCG. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen, that is it, the whole lore of Brock explained. But question is, where will Brock be taken next as a character? Well, probably nowhere, as the anime has left him behind for many years now, and he only really shows up as the gym leader of Pewter for the most part when it comes to the video games. But maybe that's for the best. Maybe we've had already a great time and journeys with him, and maybe it's time to leave Brock in the past and let new characters and new things come to fruition within the anime, video games, etc. But we probably will see Brock more in the future when it comes to, like, you know, visiting back all the way into, you know, Kanto again, if they do another remake of those, which they probably will. Let's be honest, they love doing those. So we'll probably see him again not too long from now, but that's about it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy, then check out the other 2 episodes that we did on Steven and that we did on Jesse and James. Please check them out, give them some love, watch them, and also let me know, guys, who do you want to see next? Do you want to see a video next on Misty or Lance, the Elite Four member? Ooh, so which one do you guys want to see next? Misty or Lance? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and bye-bye, ladies and gentlemen.